Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our webinar on cotton market updates and sustainability opportunities in the pandemic. With Cotton Council International as the sole webinar sponsor, this webinar is co-organized by Clothing Industry Training Authority, Hong Kong Institution of Textile and Apparel, and Sustainable Fashion Business Consortium. As a friendly reminder, if you would like to ask questions during the Q&A section, please use the Q&A function to submit your questions. To begin, may I invite the member of Hong Kong SAR Legislative Council, Hon Felix Chung to deliver the open speech. Mr. Chung, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Do you see me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be the opening speaker of this webinar. Well, usually every time we just talk about the cotton market update, but this time we have a very interesting topic. Is about sustainability opportunity in the pandemic. It's been a challenging year, and we're facing some difficult times. We never have this experience before. It's not just about economic downturn, but this time we have political and public health issue, the pandemic. No matter whether we are a multinational company, a big brand, retailers, raw material supplier, or manufacturers, we do not know how to handle this whole pandemic situations. But luckily, it looks like the economy is recovering. It's because we have the vaccinations, and the overall situation is getting better. However, we have some political issues. It's about the sanctions, about the Xinjiang cotton in China, which probably will affect the cotton supply and prices, which will be an issue to our industries. And also the new buying behavior of the consumer by using internet platform. I mean, we are all having this new challenges that we never have before. So, but sustainability will be a key trend for our industry, especially now we know we have the Paris Climate Agreement that all the countries in the world have to reduce a very large percentage of gas emissions by 2030, which I believe will affect the plantations of cotton and other raw materials. As I'm the Hong Kong legislator representing the textile and garment industries, I already make a proposal to the Hong Kong government to establish a sustainable fashion hub in Asia, and Hong Kong has the ability to do it. But however, the mindset of the present government is still very old-fashioned. So I still need to take some time to push them and educate them to understand how important this is and how Hong Kong is capable to be a sustainable fashion center in Asia. Last but not least, I believe all other speakers will give us some very interesting or important insight of each topics. And I wish this seminar to be a successful one. Also, the most important thing is everybody to be healthy. And for those who has not done the vaccinations, please do so. Thanks very much, and I wish everyone good health. Thank you.
President of Supply Chain Marketing Asia at Cotton Incorporated, to present the topic Cotton for Fashion and the Environment. Mr. Kimbrell, please.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is William Kimbrell, and I manage Cotton Incorporated's marketing activities in the Asia region. Today I'm coming to you from our world headquarters in Cary, North Carolina in the United States. For those of you I've had the opportunity to meet, hope to have the chance to see you again soon. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I hope we'll have the opportunity to connect in the future. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Clothing Industry Training Authority, the Sustainable Fashion Business Consortium, the Hong Kong Institute of Textile and Apparel, and Cotton Council International for the opportunity to present in today's event. It's always a great opportunity to be able to connect with colleagues and friends in Hong Kong, and I'll hope to have the opportunity to visit the region again soon. We all know cotton as a comfortable, breathable, soft, raw material that can be used for apparel, home, and non-woven products, but there's a lot more to cotton. And today I want to take a broader look at cotton and explore how it, in many ways, contributes to the environment. As a research and promotion organization for cotton, Cotton Incorporated invests a lot of time and resources into producing fabric concepts, analyzing fashion trends, and developing innovative cotton technologies. These resources are valued and utilized by brands and manufacturers around the world. However, our industry is under even greater pressure now to explore other issues like sustainability and circularity. Recognizing these new demands, Cotton Incorporated has taken a deep dive into cotton's circular economy. Cotton's circular life begins as a plant in the field, but later it touches many different product categories like textiles, nonwovens, and even engineered materials. As it travels through these different product categories, there are opportunities for reuse, for recycling, and ultimately returning the fiber to earth. Cotton is a natural fiber that's grown from the earth. It starts with a seed and soil and uses water and sunlight to grow into a plant. That plant yields cotton fiber, some more seed, and also organic material. In the United States, cotton is produced by farmers along the southern belt of the U.S. Through the open exchange of ideas and best practices and extensive research, cotton producers continuously improve their stewardship of the land and natural resources. Almost every element of the cotton plant is utilized. The seed, the organic matter from the plant, and of course the fiber all go to good use. On the screen you can see a range of products you might not know cotton plays a role in. This is an important point because as we discuss sustainability and circularity and defend the raw materials we use, it's critical to take a broader view than just the fiber that's going into your fabrics or your garments. So let's start with the cotton seed. The seed is the first step, obviously, in producing a cotton plant when it's planted in the soil. But once the cotton is harvested, the cotton plant actually yields more seed than cotton fiber if you look at it by weight. This seed is a valuable product and is used for cattle feed. The cotton seed can also be cleaned of the short fibers called linters and then pressed into cottonseed oil. The linters that are cleaned are also utilized for other products, so really nothing is wasted. Cottonseed oil is very popular for cooking because it can handle very high cooking temperatures. You can see on the screen here a Japanese restaurant in the United States is marketing its use of cottonseed oil, saying the premium quality cottonseed oil made from the finest guarantees the amazingly crisp, light, and healthy tempura. In regards to the cotton plant itself, once the cotton is harvested, there's organic matter that remains in the field. You have things like stalks and sticks and leaves, and typically that organic matter is left in the field because it provides nutrients to the soil, and it also helps retain the soil by reducing soil erosion. But Cotton Incorporated partnered with our Chroma in a project around their earth color dyes. Through the project, we found that this organic matter that remains in the field can be ground up and then synthesized into a dye that can be utilized for textiles. This dye is available from our Chroma under their earth color line, and you can see some of the Cotton Incorporated developments on the bottoms of the slide here that we produce using those cotton dyes. So we essentially have redefined 100% cotton by producing a 100% cotton fabric and then dyeing it with a cotton dye. As we move to the fiber stage, we are all very familiar with cotton applications for apparel and for home and for non-woven products. but the cotton fiber, and specifically the very short fibers and potentially cotton waste, can be used for some very unique applications. On the screen at the top left, you see a pile of very fine cotton. It got to this state by being ground extremely fine. Work with this type of pulverized cotton, which is similar to cotton flock, has been utilized in 3D printing. You can see the video showing a 3D printer printing with a 100% natural filament that was produced with cotton and PLA made from corn. This is an incredible concept and one that we at Cotton Incorporated continue to research and push the limits with cotton. Opportunities with cotton extend to injection molding. On the screen here, you can see a screenshot from a company in the United States called BOGO. BOGO has developed toothbrushes that contain cotton and a biodegradable PLA that's made from cornstarch. They make these toothbrushes through the injection molding process. And if you look at the company's website, they market these toothbrushes as being biodegradable. They even have instructions on how to compost the toothbrushes and how to dispose of them. And it's very interesting because on the website, they say the toothbrush is biodegradable, however, the bristles are not. And why the bristles are not is because they're made of nylon, so a synthetic fiber. They recommend removing the bristles before you put them into your compost pile. This is really springs off and starts a great story about how cotton can actually be returned to the earth. Now I'd like to introduce you to the gentleman pictured on the slide. This is a cotton researcher for the University of Arkansas in the United States. Each year, Cotton Incorporated takes a group of brands and retailers on a cotton farm tour. And during this tour, they visit the research station in Arkansas. These researchers take time to explain the millions of dollars that are invested into researching cotton processes that contribute to the continual improvement of cotton production. As part of the discussion, it's always mentioned about how cotton is biodegradable, and each year we get a great view of how that's true. At this research station, researchers bury cotton and polyester garments into the ground to see what happens over time. And here you can see the results. This researcher is holding up two pairs of underwear. The blue pair in his left hand were 100% polyester. They look as good as new, maybe just a little bit dirty. And then in his right hand, he's holding up the 100% cotton pair of underwear. The cotton underwear are nearly gone with the exception of the waistband and seams that were sewn using synthetic sewing thread. This highlights the important point that cotton can be returned to the earth. It's important to know that cotton can break down and degrade because we continue to face issues with microfibers in the environment. We regularly see new headlines around microfibers and how they persist in various environments, and the main focus around these microfibers are synthetic or plastic microfibers. On this map from 2018, it's showing water samples taken around the world. These water samples were tested for microplastic contamination. The orange dots on the screen represent samples that contained microplastics. The yellows were samples that did not contain any plastic. The size of the orange dot represents the amount of plastic found in a liter of water sample. So you can see this problem is very prevalent and is not going away anytime soon. Microfibers first came on our radar back in 2015 when Patagonia and the Bren School of the Environment published a report on microfibers from synthetic fleece. The report highlighted that fleece jackets shed during laundering, that top-load washing machines cause more shedding than front-load, and that older jackets shed more than newer jackets. And microfiber shedding is a real thing. Every load of wash releases thousands of microfibers into wastewater. Some microfibers are filtered out at the wastewater treatment plants. However, many microfibers continue on and make it into our freshwater rivers and lakes and streams and into the ocean. And this is not only specific to synthetic fibers. Cotton garments also shed. fibers, and these fibers can also make it through to various range of aquatic environments. But the difference is that the cotton fibers can biodegrade. And this has been validated by NC State's College of Natural Resources. Dr. Richard Venditti has conducted a range of extensive research on how fibers react in various aquatic environments. In his first phase of research, he looked at wastewater. He wanted to see if the fibers were caught in a wastewater facility. Did the fibers degrade or did they persist? Here you can see a chart from his research that shows that cotton biodegrades roughly 90%, almost 90% after 30 days, while the polyester, the pink trend line on the bottom there, persists and remains unchanged. It's interesting also to note that the 50-50 cotton polyester fibers that were put into the water, those roughly degraded about 50%, showing that the cotton portion actually degraded, but the polyester remained. And just as a note, the reference material in yellow, that's basically some organic matter, something similar to a leaf. So you can see that completely degraded over the 30-day time period. As Dr. Venditti continued his research, he wanted to take it to the next step and see what would happen to these fibers if they did not get caught in the wastewater facility, if they made it through, didn't get caught up in the filtration, and actually made it out into some of our freshwater environments. This simulation was done to simulate something like lake water. Again, you can see cotton biodegraded, degraded roughly 85% after 35 days. And polyester, again, the bottom trend line there in pink, continued to persist, and there was no change for the polyester over the 35 days. And interesting still, if you look at the blended fibers of the 50 cotton, 50 polyester, roughly 40% degradation, showing that that cotton component over the 35 days did degrade. In the final phase of his research was to analyze these fibers and how they reacted in seawater. They created a saltwater environment, again, utilized put the fibers in that environment and watched to see how they reacted and if they degraded over time. Here again, you can see cotton, polyester, the blend, and also the reference material. And over time, cotton did degrade. It degraded to a lesser degree of what we saw in the wastewater plant and also in the freshwater. And that could be related to different types of microbes inside of the environment in the seawater. However, the positive thing is that we did see over the 35-day period that cotton did degrade roughly 50%. And the trend held through with the polyester of no degradation over time there. The cotton polyester blend had a little bit less degradation at about 15% over the period of time. And again, you can see the reference material at the top had the highest degree of degradation in the saltwater environment. And these results for cotton are very positive, and they support the issues that we're seeing out in the industry with the microplastic contamination. There have been many reports out there that show that the microplastic contamination is an issue not only with aquatic life, however, they found microplastic contamination in things like sea salt. Microplastic contamination has been found in salt water and even beer. So this problem continues to persist, and seeing cotton as a viable solution is a great way for the apparel industry to go. And the good news is there are a lot of cotton solutions out there. Cotton Incorporated in our research and development team through the product development lab have produced a lot of polyester fleece alternatives. We've used cotton wool blends to create cotton wool fleece. We've also worked with cotton to create some unique constructions like Sherpa or Jacquard blister fabrics. All of these fabrics have the natural attributes of cotton, being soft and breathable, but they also, through the construction, enable us to have the thermal regulation properties and keeping the wearers warm. So there are solutions out there. There are ways that you can utilize cotton fibers to create innovative constructions that still can have performance and functionality. Cotton solutions also exist for activewear apparel. Cotton Incorporated has developed a suite of technologies that can be applied to cotton fabrics to enhance their performance and help them to compete with synthetic garments. Cotton Incorporated's Storm Cotton finish is a water repellent finish that can be applied in fabric or garment form to knits or wovens. This creates water repellency for the life of the garment. We also have two moisture management technologies, wicking windows and trans-dry. These are technologies that can be, again, applied to knits or to wovens and wick moisture away from your body, keeping you cool and comfortable during workouts and athletic events. The last technology is the Tough Cotton technology, which is enhanced durability technology. This technology, again, can be applied to knit or wovens and enhances the durability of the cotton fabric during rough wear and activities. Another good solution for active wear and outdoor wear apparel. These technologies are readily available. We have lists of suppliers who can supply brands and retailers with the technologies, and they've been heavily adopted over the years. We continue to see a interest in cotton technologies and technologies that can perform and compete against synthetic product. Before I conclude, I would like to make you aware of a great industry resource called Cottonworks. Cottonworks.com is a free online resource with a wealth of information on sourcing and manufacturing, retail and marketing, fabric and technology, fashion and trend, and sustainability. With hundreds of easily searchable resources at your fingertips, Cottonworks is your go-to resource for discovering what's possible with cotton. We encourage everyone to register and take full advantage of this resource that is available to you. On cottonworks.com, you can find much of the information I presented to you today. The newly developed circularity page has a wealth of information that can help you in your marketing of cotton products and through cotton's circular economy. At Cotton Incorporated, we are here to assist you with all of your cotton needs. We understand that there are many pressures around sustainability, and we are here as a resource to support your cotton business. Before I conclude the presentation, I would like to show a short video. This video exhibits the great story that cotton has to tell. Cotton is a natural fiber that comes from a plant that is cultivated by farmers who are good stewards of the land. You can have confidence in using cotton.
Before starting my blog, before traveling around the world to fashion shows, working with designers, and even before leaving for college, I was JC Dupree, a farmer's daughter from South Texas. When I was a little girl, I thought that everything was made of cotton. The clouds in the sky, the mashed potatoes my mom made for dinner, pretty much anything that was white and fluffy, and I thought it was made from this magical plant that my dad farmed. He was, and still is, somewhat of an angel, who turns empty fields into beautiful white seas of softness. For 7 generations, my family has been farming this land that their livelihoods depend on. It's quite romantic, the amount of care and passion that goes into the crop each season, but after the cotton is primed and the plants are ready, it's time for harvest. Farmers work 12 to 15-hour-long days during harvest season. They hustle to harvest the crop as quickly as possible, and if everything runs smoothly, there will be no machine breakdowns and no rain showers. The cotton first gets stripped off the fields by tractors. The cotton is packed into huge modules which are taken to the gin by trucks. The cotton then enters the gin and it's cleaned, seeds separated, and it's primed to send off to the factories. When the cotton comes out on the other end of the gin, it's delivered in its purest form. The seeds are removed and repurposed for cooking, dairy cattle feed, and other uses. The clean bales of cotton are then loaded up in a truck and taken off to the factory where they're turned into fabric and yarn. After the long journey the cotton has made from the fields to the design studios, it's time to create something beautiful. Why cotton? Not only is it a natural fiber, but it's comfortable, it's breathable, durable, and it's a fabric that goes beyond just t-shirts and jeans. I may have left my family cotton farm at age 18, but it didn't leave me. Every time I put on a piece of cotton clothing, I'm putting on a piece of home. I'm supporting the hardworking people who are doing an honest job. I'm wearing a piece of my family history. I'm carrying on the tradition, just in my own way. J.C. Dupree, farmer's daughter, damsel in Dior, lover of all things cotton.
Thank you again for the opportunity to present at this event. Please take care and stay safe, and I hope to have the opportunity to visit you all in Hong Kong very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Kimbrell. So let us now invite our next guest speaker, Ms. Karin Malmstrom, Director of China and Northeast Asia at Cotton Council International, to share with us cotton market updates and U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol. Ms. Malmstrom, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, and we're so happy that you could make it today to our virtual webinar, and we sure hope the next one is going to be live. We have a good program, as you can see, and I'm going to be talking about China, COVID, and cotton. So I'm going to share my screen right now. So we have a lot to talk about. It's been an incredible year, good, bad, and ugly, I guess, but hopefully all of us have survived well, and we're planning for the future. So I'm going to talk about China's COVID situation briefly, economic recovery, the textile and cotton situation, and then briefly about our programs at CCI and Cotton USA. So, you know, this year has really been a challenge, and sadly, we've had over 3 million fatalities. China has been able to recover quite well, and they've had just about 90,000 cases with less than 5,000 fatalities, so it's been controlled quite well. There now is even possibility of Chinese citizens to come to Hong Kong, a one-way. It's not quite reciprocal yet for Hong Kong to travel to the mainland easily, but there are signs that there is progress, and hopefully the situation will improve within the next few months. But you can see the COVID cases really leveled off already starting over a year ago, and you know, it's remained very, very low. So in fact, now with the vaccines, I believe 200 million people in China have been vaccinated, about 14% of the population, and they're hopefully going to get up to 40% by the end of June. So again, you know, we're making slow and steady progress here. As you know, COVID really put a dent in the economies all over the world, China included. But as we'll see, the recovery has been pretty quick and robust. Now, there's a lot of talk about, well, how will it recover and what's the recovery rate? So some of experts in China talk about the potential growth rate they're looking at, and they're taking different scenarios into consideration. So some are more conservative, others are taking the needs of the corporation of all aspects to realize growth. So looking at the numbers coming in right now, the growth, the recovery looks pretty strong. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. Just analyzing one quarter certainly is not enough to call the numbers yet. So this is the first quarter has been very good, as you'll see. And what China is doing as part of their 14th five-year plan is what they call a dual circulation model, an economic model that basically is focusing on the domestic market, and they want to drive growth of their domestic consumption because the middle class is growing, over 400 million people. And actually, we're looking at the numbers, and there's a lot of disposable income that actually has been pent up during COVID. So the spending power now has grown. And another factor of this is that China is reacting and responding to new international situations. Over the last years, I know you know that the US-China relationship has been quite frayed, and also with other countries. And so geopolitics definitely comes into this. So China is looking for other partners in other directions to see how they can grow their exports there as well. But the investment and consumption patterns are quite interesting too, because these have evolved over the past 10, 11 years. So it used to be investment was the big driver and consumption was less, but now it's kind of gone the opposite way. So in the last 10 years, investment has accounted for from 62% to 17%, while the consumption has grown from over 42% to about 67%. So we're seeing steady growth in domestic consumption over, let's say, investment in infrastructure. And this is going to be very, very interesting to watch. And the other element of this is the issue of Xinjiang cotton. Now, you know, because of the sanctions being enforced by the United States and then other countries, China is looking to use more of their Xinjiang cotton internally, so it will be consumed domestically. And also another factor we were looking at is, you know, Chinese investments, not just in China, but overseas, and where the consumption is going to go there. And, you know, as you know, in overseas operations, a lot of their management decisions and their purchasing decisions are still made within China at their headquarters. So basically, they're treating their China offshore operations just as part of their own domestic operations. So the recovery has been actually good. These numbers may be small, but you can see it hasn't retracted. And I'll show you in a couple other slides. In fact, we're thinking that recovery has indeed dug in during the first quarter. And the question really is now, can China keep up this growth? And then if yes, what is the growth strategy and how much will it grow? And really this depends on, you know, how successful their dual circulation model is going to be moving forward. But just looking at these numbers already in the first quarter of 2021, wow, the GDP is up already over 18% year on year, and taking into the a little bit of a retraction and nosedive during last year, but over the last 2 years, there still is an average GDP growth rate of 5%, which is quite incredible, taking into consideration the COVID situation. And retail sales have increased almost 34% year on year in the first quarter. And then on average, a per capita consumption expenditure of clothing increased over 18%. So you can really see that pent up demand in China. And you know, so I think they're encouraged with this dual circulation model then. It's like, wow, they're off to a good start. And textiles and apparel exports respectively also have really increased a huge amount, 40% and 33% respectively, 47% respectively. So, you know, basically the signs are positive for recovery in China. Now, pre-COVID, China represents 50% of the global cotton spinning capacity and 45% of the worldwide cotton weaving capacity. So it's the largest capacity in the world. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, well, are they going to keep this up, or are supply chains going to move around? And we'll take a look at some numbers about the supply, demand, and the production of cotton and the actual mill use of cotton, and you'll see where this might be going. Now, post-COVID, we're seeing patterns of purchasing patterns, and the mills are actually buying cotton, but their behavior has changed a little bit. So they want to have short-term orders because it's, to mitigate their risks. They don't want to extend their inventory for too long. And also we're seeing they're really trying to develop their belt and road markets. So this is all very interesting for us to see where the supply chain is going. So China textile exports surged in 2020 by 30%. That's quite incredible, all things considered. And a lot of this, of course, was PPE. Now we're interested to see, well, now that PPE might be dropping a little bit, is there really, this production going on, and will exports continue to be that robust? So just taking the first quarter into consideration, that's one thing, but we're going to watch each quarter within this year. So it'll be very interesting to see the rest of the year. But now taking the purchasing managers index into account, it has dramatically recovered, and it recovered very quickly. I'll show you a graph. And the second one to take into consideration, a big trend we're going to watch, is how is the growth rate quarter on quarter, year on year, of the Belt and Road countries and with Africa as it relates to textiles and apparel. Now, the manufacturing textile trends, you can see clearly from 1 year ago, over a year ago, wow, it dropped because that's when COVID kicked in March. But at the end of the year, it was kind of leveled off, and it still rose a little bit. But in January and February, it just jumped right back. So you can see by this graph that textile manufacturing has rebounded even to higher than when it was over a year ago for billions of meters. Now, the PMI here, clearly over a year ago, it just nosedived. So, at the 50 mark, it indicates below 50, you're in a retraction, and above 50, you're in expansion of your economy as it relates to manufacturing. And it didn't stay down at 30, 36, 37% very long. It just went right back up to over 50, and that was over a year ago, and it stayed there, and it now is rising. So this indicator really tells me that, well, the recovery is real, and it's robust. And so moving forward, you see China here. Why I'm showing this chart is there are trade agreements also that we're looking at that will reflect where some of these, where the supply chains are moving, and also geopolitics. This is very important to take into consideration, especially as it relates to policies toward Xinjiang. And of course, the China-EU investment agreement really hasn't been ratified because there's still some outstanding items that are pertain to Xinjiang they can't agree on. So we're looking at all this. Now, why I say this is, moving forward, it could signal something of a, I don't really like the buzzword decoupling, but you might see this kind of East versus West and set of supply chains, so China may be looking to other countries closer to them, and the US may be looking, more toward Central America and Europe and that sort of thing, and other Asian countries. So that's something to note. Now, I'm going to dive right into the cotton situation. Pricing over the past, well, months and even year has been pretty robust. It's been quite high. It's still in the 80s. And I'll show you, it may be staying at this level. Again, we don't know. Of course, it depends also on oil prices. But, you know, it is staying at this level. And over the past 3 years, you can see it tumbled during 19 and 20. And what was interesting is even during the COVID situation, it really just kept creeping up and up again, and it's regained most of its pricing as of today. So we're leveling off again, as I say, in the 80s, and we think it might just stay up here for a while. So the world balance sheet is pretty healthy. Production has, you can see it's the predictions are it's going to go down a little bit because basically, well, there's enough cotton to go around. Supply is up, as you see, higher than it was in the last few years. So pretty good shape. We also see the mill use going up. And I mean, obviously that's good, rebounding quite a bit when you see from 1920 to 2021, it's rebounding to levels of a past few years. And so taking China out of the equation, we see in the market, there's really enough cotton to go around, and the mill use is also up. And that's also very interesting around the world. And demand is up. It's back up from a couple of years ago. So this is very interesting. So you see demand, it declined, of course, that reflects COVID, but it is now actually up even around the rest of the world and not including China. So that's also indicating something about the global economy and the demand for cotton. In the US, we see production a little bit lower. We are thinking this because of the supply is a little bit lower. The mill use is pretty steady. The exports are steady, and the demand is quite stable and robust. So that's a good balance sheet. We do see the stocks to use ratio low, much lower than it was a couple of years ago. So obviously, if there's less production, there's going to be less stocks, which normally would keep the prices a little bit higher. So, but, you know, when the prices are higher, it gives more incentive for the farmers to plant cotton. So that's kind of going to be interesting as well. So talking about production, you know, China and India are right on par right now. The United States is pretty stable and steady, but quite a bit lower than it was in the previous couple of seasons. But then you see Brazil, the trend of Brazil year on year, just, you know, totally increasing their production, mainly with their export market to China in mind, and Pakistan also is quite robust. And the exports, again, now look at the United States, it's steady at 3.4 million tons, but Brazil, wow, they've pretty much tripled their exports over the past 4 or 5 years. And then India is pretty stable, but it has increased. So obviously we're looking, and these exports of cotton, they need a home. So everybody is looking at China to see, wow, you know, are they still going to be importing, you know, cotton? And, you know, I mean, from what we see, the answer is yes, because demand has rebounded. The consumption, as I mentioned, cotton in China has increased. Our predictions have increased quite a bit. India is steady, and Pakistan and Bangladesh. So these countries really are the main 4 countries. Vietnam is very, very good. It's right up there. along with Turkey. So yeah, so we still see that consumption is pretty healthy. Now the imports, we're looking at China and Bangladesh. That's kind of interesting. Bangladesh has increased their imports along with Vietnam and Pakistan. It's very healthy, as well as Turkey. Now I'd like to talk about an exciting program that brings genuine, verifiable trackability to your supply chain, from mills and manufacturers to brands and retailers. And we've started this program as of last September. We already have over 300 mills, manufacturers, brands, and retailers signed up to the program. It really allows you to rely on a transparent, traceable and trackable supply chain management, if you will. It's all digitalized. And that by the end of the year, you know, brands and retailers can report back to their shareholders and say, here is all the data, here are all the numbers, and this is what we are doing against our sustainability goals. And we're all in alignment with all the global sustainability efforts, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and etc. So we would encourage all of you to take a look at trustuscotton.org, see how you can get involved. We're happy to help you sign up and give you a lot more detail. It's a very exciting program, and we're happy to give you more information on that. Just get in touch with us. And just a few of the brands who have already signed up, and there's more that have just signed up, including, you know, Levi's and PVH, and, you know, companies who are owners of brands and whatnot. And, you know, this is really gaining momentum. And if you're a mill or manufacturer, it's very possible that your downstream customer may even ask you to join, because they are then wanting to track their supply chain. So again, if you want to go on and get more information, trustuscotton.org, and it's very easy to sign up. Again, just to get in touch with one of us, and we'll be very happy to give you more information and help you sign up. Another very exciting program new to Cotton USA is the Solutions Program. Now, we have gathered some of the world's best cotton spinning experts together, and for those of the companies and mills, manufacturers, brands, retailers, mostly mills and manufacturers, who have signed up for the protocol, you can actually get these services free of charge. And, you know, this means that we can send our people into your operations and go through your whole spinning process and see how you may be able to improve your process, both the product and also the profitability. Absolutely. So it's all about, you know, yes, you can make yarn and make more money and make better yarn. So, and we offer mill exchange programs, technical seminars, mill studies, so you can compare and see. You know, we've done a lot of homework over the last 3-4 years getting this program together, and then mill mastery courses. And so basically, it's like this one-stop shopping consultancy where we can help you. And if you're using US cotton, we'll be more than happy to send our people in to see what they can help you with. So with that, I thank you very, very much. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy the program with the rest of our speakers. So with that, I'm going to stop share. And I just hope that you are going to be enjoying the rest of the program, and do stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malmstrom. May we now invite our next guest speaker, Mr. Michael Lam, Marketing Director of Advanced Denim Limited, to present the topic, how a denim mill pursuing its sustainability goals in the pandemic. Mr. Lam, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael from Advanced Denim. So let me see if I can share the presentation. So I need to have the host to let me share it. So can you let me share it? Hello. Yeah, can you? Yeah, seems like I'm not allowed to share my presentation. Okay, right. Okay, maybe you help me then. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Michael. So thank you so much for Cotton USA to letting us have the chance to present it today. So the topic today is how a denim mill pursuing its sustainability goals in the pandemic. So we have prepared a few topics. Okay. Yeah. So of course, the first one is we have to introduce advanced denim because I guess some of you may not know advanced. So we just take a few pages to tell you some of our background, and also we opened up the Vietnam production in 2019, and we called it the mill. We call it is advanced Seco. So again, we're going to spend a few pages to explain that to you, and then and also the third topic we want to talk about is the sustainability initiative, because we think even during the pandemic, we still have to invest the money into to upgrade the equipment, facilities, or any new technologies, even though during the pandemic, we cannot stop. So that's why the fourth topic we want to talk about is the big changes. We believe that's the big changes for the indigo dyeing, and we call it big box dyeing. And the last one we want to talk about is the bio-blue technologies, and this is the new way to dye up the indigo, and is kind of using a really eco chemical instead of the sodium hydrosulfate, which is the really toxic chemical. So that's going to, we believe that's going to be a big change for the industry as well. So about advanced denim. So we just want to let you know who we are. So we are the first denim mill in China, and we have over 30 years experience. And you cannot believe, 30 years ago, there's no denim mills in China. Yeah, maybe they have, some woven mills, but not denim mills. So we are the first one, and we have, really long experience to make a good denim. And also we are a private owned company, and also we have over 1,000 workers. So where we are, so our headquarters is in Shendi, which is southern part of China. It's close to Hong Kong. And also we have mill in Vietnam, as I mentioned, is in Nha Trang, which is also in southern part of Vietnam. And also we have office and showroom in New York, Amsterdam, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. So what we want, what we are going to be. So, we always say we just don't want to be an ordinary denim mill. We want to be the leader, one of the leaders in denim for in the globe. And also, we just put really a big effort to make innovation, and also we do whatever we can to make innovation products in a really sustainable way to do it. And so our core values. So innovation, sustainability, people, quality is really our main core values of our company. So we just keep doing it. We keep investing in these 4 main areas. So we have 16 patents which is granted, and also there's 38 patents which is in application. So I would say which is pretty good, for denim mill. So we will keep increasing, the innovation and the new stuff, and so we hope we can get more patent later on. And this is the initiative of what we are doing right now. So we are targeting in 2023 overall fiber that we're going to use internally is going to be green fiber. This is not, we are not doing that for brands. So we are doing that from our own company. So for all the green fiber that we would consider, and we hope, I mean, two years later, all the developments and all the production, in the company is going to be over 90% green fiber. So certifications, and of course we have the GOTS, RCS, and OCS. This is the certification that we always have for many years. And so of course not just the GOTS from control union, also we are blue sign partner. And for the wastewater treatment plant, we have our own wastewater treatment plant, so we are not sharing with other people. And so because some of the mills, maybe they share with other people in the industrial area, but we are not. So we have our own one. And so per day we can treat like 9,000 tons, which is quite a good number for denim mill. And also you can see the COD numbers, which is much better than the national standard. And also we bought the genealogy laser machines, ozone machines, even though we do sample like a wash panel, and we also care about how we could save more water. Right, and so about Advanced Eco, so our mill in Vietnam. And as I mentioned, right, the mill is in Nha Trang, which is in southern part of Vietnam. It's close to Ho Chi Minh City, and the whole idea is that we want to work together with the new supply chain. And so because we understand that some of the garment or denim making is in jeans making is in Vietnam, so we want to set up a mill, so it's more good for logistics. So we have around 400 workers over there, and we hope we can grow the capacity, and then we can hire more people in Vietnam later on. And also all the testing and everything and R&D is done in China, and also all the marketing things is done in Hong Kong and US and Europe as well. So we want to build up like a more international Vietnam mill. And for the sustainable concept, so we also put the same philosophy as what we are doing right now into our mill in Vietnam. So again, even though our mill in Vietnam, we expect in 2023, the fiber is going to be what we're going to use is over 90% is going to be sustainable fibers. Right, and also the indigo that we are using in Vietnam is 100% liquid indigo from Acroma. So we also care about the chemicals that we are using over there. And also we have our own wastewater treatment plant as well in Vietnam. And also the COD value is also much better than the national standard. So also we are the first denim mill in Vietnam, got the GLTS, OCS, and RCS. So this is the certification that we have in Vietnam. So as I mentioned, right? So what we are doing right now, I mean, not just right now, I mean, before and after. So, we're going to show you our plan for the sustainability initiatives. So we need to do it like, not just, in a good time. So even though during the pandemic, so we just, we haven't stopped anything. So this is the Hague Index. This is a score by the third party, and for the table, or for the chart in the middle, so you can see our total score. The red line in 2019 we scored 81, and then you can see the gray line is the benchmark. So you can see actually though we have put so much effort to improve our facilities in the mill in China. And also you can see the table on your right hand side. So this is the top one, the red line, of course, is advanced denim. So 81, score 81, and then you can see the benchmark in every single country. So just to give you the summary of what we have done during even though 2017 to 2019. So we are expecting, we hope we can still have, little room to improve, and then we'll see how we can get that improvement, in that, even though I would say 81 is kind of a really high score. So we hope we can get an even better score in 2020. So this is the overall area that what we have, and maybe I have to mention the energy use. We score 100, and water use also we score 100. So this is a really good area, and we hope we are doing whatever we can to keep it, okay, and because it's already 100. So for the other ponds, the other area, so we will keep working on it and hope every single area we can do like over 90 or close to 100. And so this is the carbon emissions. Again, we haven't stopped anything, so we will try to see what we can to improve it. So you can see from 2017 to 2019, so the numbers that we have improved in the carbon emissions. And also the water consumption and recycling. So for the water reuse rate, we can do like from 2017 to 2019. So we for the water reuse rate, we could do like around 54%, which is we think is pretty good. So we'll keep improving it. And also we will keep improving, all our facilities for the environmental protection as well. So this is the kind of the roadmap, and the carbon reduction for our 10 years plan is you can see even though from 2020 during the pandemic, we have replaced the boiler coal by natural gas. And so we'll keep thinking how we could do in the next 10 years. And the indirect emission. So we will see, because later on I'm going to talk about the big box dyeing, and some of you may heard about it. And so we hope in the next 10 years, we hope the big box dyeing we can do it in a much more large scale. So we will put more investment in it. So again, the Scope 3 indirect emission. So again, we will work on the big box dyeing. Even though because though I will again, I'm going to talk about that in the next topic, because for the we reduce wastewater emission, the big box dyeing actually helps a lot. So for the next 10 years, again, we will try to change as much as we can from the conventional indigo dyeing to the big box dyeing. So so the big box dyeing. So I keep mentioning it. Right. So this is the machine that we installed in 2019. So the main concept for that is for the conventional indigo dyeing. So we need to have 8 to 13 dye boxes, which use tons of water during the indigo dyeing process. But you can see this machine we just need to have 1 dye box instead of 8 to 13 dye boxes. So that would help us to reduce the water consumption for over 90%, and even though the wastewater discharge we can reduce over 90% as well. So these pictures just give you some summary. Is for the conventional indigo dyeing, we need to have 8 to 13 dye boxes plus 3 rinse boxes. And for the big box, we don't use any rinse box and just 1 dye box. So that would save tons of water. And so this is the numbers for the water consumption. As I mentioned, we can reduce over 90%, and for the wastewater emissions, so almost I would say there's no wastewater coming out from this machine. So that would really help us to improve all the data and all the the wastewater emissions and everything. Even though the chemical consumption you can reduce around 25%, and also we can reduce the energy consumption as well. So we hope that is going to have a big change for the industry as well. But at least we're going to work on it as much as we can. So the last topic I want to talk about is the BioBlue. So this is a new innovation for the chemical use. And so this is the replacement for the reducing agent. So this is the dyeing process without using any sodium hydrosulfate. So just want to give you some hazardous sodium hydrosulfate. So basically, this is a kind of a toxic chemical, but we need it as a denim mill, right? We need this as a reducing agent to make the indigo powder, to a liquid form, and then so we can use it to dye it up into the yarn or cotton. So so why sodium hydrosulfate? I just mentioned, right? So we need to use this toxic chemical for the conventional indigo dye to reduce from powder form to liquid form. So then we can apply the synthetic indigo into the yarn or fiber. So why not using sodium hydrosulfate? So this is a harmful chemical, which is really bad for the human. And so even though, if we pump it out to our wastewater treatment plant, that's going to give us, really high pressure to make it, to neutralize it. And so, so what's BioBlue then? actually, some of you may understand, hydrogen is kind of the best carrier to reduce the indigo from powder form to liquid form. But for as a mill level, we cannot install a high amount of hydrogen because it's dangerous. It's going to explode, right? So that's why in the denim mill, so we're not using hydrogen as a reducing agent. So we need to use sodium hydrosulfate. But for the bio blue is we are using the new technologies, which we're using two chemicals together, and then it produce hydrogen as a carrier to reduce the indigo from powder to liquid instead of using sodium hydrosulfate. So this is the machine, the bio blue. Is all automation. So, and also these two chemical, as I mentioned, is approved by US FDA. This is actually used for medical use, and then we apply that into the textile industry. And also you can see the summary, the blue part is the bio blue, and in every area, even though the COD value, in general, it performs more eco way compared to other chemicals that we use right now. So that's it for my presentation. So if you have any questions, just you can contact me, or please follow our Instagram or Facebook. Thank you so much. Bye.
So here comes our final presentation today, Future of Sourcing, 2021 and beyond. May we now invite Mr. Pat-Nie Woo, partner of KPMG and global co-chair of sustainable finance at KPMG Impact, to present the topic. Mr. Woo, please.
Thank you for Cotton USA for inviting me to speak. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Pat-Nie Woo. I used to be in the textile industry, and now have been at KPMG now for 7 years. I cannot share my screen, so if somebody can kind of like put up my presentation as well. So I think, I used to be working with Michael, and it's really wonderful to hear what Michael is doing at Advanced Denim. It feels like, that time that I spent when I was in the industry, talking about all of these things about sustainability did not go wasted, and that he took a lot of what I was thinking back then into actual practical solutions at Advanced Denim. And so well done, Michael. And, I'm glad that you paid attention and
thank you so much. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So, I was super proud, and well done. And I think that is predominantly the way that the world is going. So, but I think that since I've left the textile industry, I'm now more involved in the finance world, and I just wanted to share with you, what I'm seeing, and also I think where the market is really heading, because I kind of like have a bit of a disconnected view, and seeing what other industries are doing. But I think that in the end, what I see is that fundamentally, we have significant problems on how we run our industries and how we run businesses as a whole, and we're facing up to that reality. And the capital market, meaning any type of lending, investing, or just insurance, everybody is now looking at ESG because they know that if you control the flow of money, that will control the behavior of how industries and companies act. And so, so basically now, in the financial realm, the whole kind of, ESG is just front and center of what people are talking about. So, they call it sustainability, ESG, environmental, social governance, and all these listed companies now have to do these ESG reports. With the new administration in the US, the SEC is finally putting that act together and requiring listed companies in the US to do the same. It's really shocking, to be honest, that we're here in 2021 and there isn't a mandatory rule for the biggest capital market in the world for them to report, although a lot of them do anyway because of shareholder pressure. But I think that is shocking that here in 2021 that the SEC is just getting their act together. But I think that whilst that's going on, the world is continuing to move, and and the 9 years I was in the textile industry trying to push sustainability, I think the majority of the voices I heard was nobody really cares. It doesn't really make its way into that sourcing decision. And yeah, well, it's nice to have these kind of things. It's a nice to have. It's not mission critical, so we'll just kind of like, push away at it and all of that, and that's good. But I think ultimately it is getting to that point where if you're not doing something, you're going to, it's literally, it is mission critical now. And I feel that I had another conversation with, our ex-friends in the textile industry. And as you know, I think that the whole industry has moved into this aspect of going net zero. And a number of brands and retailers have signed up to this UN Fashion Charter, which is aiming at, I think, 45% absolute carbon reduction by 2030. That's only, less than 9 years away. And how is that going to happen? They signed up to this, and I think that the capital market, the investors, the people with the money, right? So if you're not meeting these targets, they could literally just pull money away from you, or divest your shares and all this kind of stuff that's going on right now. And and you being the supply chain is 99% of these guys' emissions. So if it's 99% of their emissions, they need to work with you. So who are they going to work with? They're going to work with people that are proactively dealing with this. People like Advanced Denim, because the fabric side is probably the 50% in denim terms is probably around 50% of that footprint. So if I was a denim retailer or brand, I would first off cut out any of the suppliers that's not doing this and work with people like Advanced Denim. So on absolute term, I may be reducing, but I'm reducing the number of suppliers from 10 to 5. And I'm going to give all of those suppliers all of my business because they are actually managing this for me. Because I think ultimately what we need to know is that your inaction, and I mean, I've been saying this for 14 years, your inaction is somebody else's, is becoming increasingly somebody else's problem. And I think from the perspective of, and I think, I'm just talking, and then there's this stuff coming up, and I may go back to some of those points, and we'll just share the slides. But I think that ultimately, the fact of the matter is, so your inaction is going to not impact, further up the supply chain. So if you're tier 3 and you're not doing anything, you're going to impact tier 2. If it's tier 2, you're not impacting, you're going to impact tier 1. If you're tier 1, you're not, then the brand, the retail, they're affected. And then what happens? Then the money men, the banks, the asset managers, the investors are going to say, well, why aren't you doing anything? And so it becomes that problem. But also, you as a supplier, you as a company, you need capital. And now we're working with the banks, we're working with the asset managers, and even if you're not listed, you need capital from banks, trade finance, even just if you don't even have, you know, capital financing, trade financing. They're now going through their whole entire loan book to figure out where are the high risks. Now, fortunately, textile may not be seen immediately as a high risk right now, but they're also looking into that beyond just the sector standpoint as to, well, okay, out of all of these guys, who is really proactively, you know, dealing with this? And if they're not proactively dealing with this, you know, we'll have trouble kind of like doing financing with you and keeping you on board as a customer. So, you know, banks are now kind of like training up their whole, you know, all of their RMs, their relationship managers who deal with you, to have these kind of conversations. Now, they may not be having it right now immediately, but in a, you know, in time, they will be talking about this with you. And I mean, we've been working with banks. So we work with some major conglomerates globally and here in Hong Kong. And so, you know, we were working with one of the biggest conglomerates here. If I say the name, you would know who they are. But I think that what I want to tell you is basically the bank brought us in to work with this conglomerate because they said, well, we want to continue to do business with these guys, but they are really terrible at this ESG thing. And we need them to improve. Otherwise, we cannot continue to do business with them. And that's going to cost us a lot of money if they don't improve. So they brought us in and to help them improve. And now, you know, they have multiple different businesses and we have to kind of like help them to set targets, help them to understand this. We've helped them to bring this up to the board level agenda. So if anybody on the call is really kind of on the Zoom that is really struggling to talk to your leadership to say that this is mission critical, you talk to them about money, about financing, about the availability of capital, about the cost of capital. Because I think that what I'm seeing is that there is a significant shift of money going into people who are working on the lower carbon economy. Now, that is where the narrative is right now in terms of climate. That is not the only narrative, but that's where the narrative is now. And so, you know, I think that it is critical that people see this as mission critical and really work on it. Because I mean, you know, you ask Michael, how long did it take him to kind of like do all this stuff? You know, it's not kind of like overnight stuff. It does take a long time and it does take a lot of effort. But I think that the key is getting this top management boards to understand. And I mean, if you're still hearing kind of like that narrative of, oh, it's too expensive, nobody's going to pay for it, and oh yeah, all that kind of stuff, I tell you, I can guarantee if you're not doing this within 5 years, you're out of business. I mean, it is to the degree that when I first joined KPMG 7 years ago, people were still kind of, no, nobody's really going to deal with this. To the aspect of now, you know, our global chairman putting this front and center of our strategy because they see that there's so much help needed in the whole you know, in markets, different sectors, and because the capital markets are really moving. So I think that, you know, I hope that that gives you that kind of perspective as to where you know, where the market is. And if we kind of like so I've talked a lot, and then if we kind of like continue to move to the next slide. And I mean, you know, Hong Kong has traditionally been the sourcing hub or, you know, for the West and all of that. And I think that, you know, in the past several years, and even when I was in the industry, I think that that was already deteriorating. And ultimately, I think that, I mean, beyond ESG and sustainability, I think that fundamentally there was a problem with the way that the business was being run. I think that you see a lot of good stuff going on, but the supply chain is still antiquated in the way that it operates, you know, that not that much has changed in 30 years. And whilst, you know, supply has just, you know, gone off the stratosphere in terms of supply. And that's why, you know, it has been a buyer's market all of these years. But I think that with sustainability, you know, coming to the cost, I think that, you know, if we are continuing with the old business model, that is really kind of, you know, I question whether that old business model is going to really continue. As you know, the world is kind of like trying to reduce carbon emissions by 45%. I think that there is an absolute terms. So this is not carbon intensity. It's not like per pair of jeans. It's absolute terms. So how are we going to get to this 45 is in 2030 and ultimately to zero in 2050 is really that there needs to be a shift in the way that business is done. So I think that there needs to be a lot more of a kind of like a partnership relationship in terms of how brands and suppliers it's a supply chain or partnership more so than kind of like just a customer supplier, because I think that fundamentally you are controlling 99% of your buyer's footprint. And so if we're still kind of like, and buyers, if you're still going around thinking, oh, well, you know, I have the same kind of, yeah, I'll go over there, you know, on a penny, all that kind of stuff. You know, I think that you would be, I wouldn't work like that if I was in your position. I would kind of like figure out who I should be partnering with and work with those guys to reduce your emissions. Because fundamentally, if you're not meeting those targets, you know what's going to happen? The capital is going to be pulled. The other thing is that maybe you need to offset carbon, you know, buy these carbon offsets. So just to let you know that the carbon market, so in the EU emissions trading market, that's not kind of like traditionally where everybody buys their carbon offsets, but that market for I think until like 2018 or something, it was just languishing at around 4 to 5 euros a ton of carbon until 2018. So in these 3 years, it's gone to 45 euros. So the latest price now is 45 euros, and it's just kind of like, it's just the price of carbon is going to go up. And so if you're not working with, if you're just looking at it purely from a kind of like, oh, per unit cost, that's going to be cheaper, but then fundamentally you're not meeting your carbon markets, somebody is going to tell you at the head office level, hey, you need to offset that. And that is going to cost you a lot more than the pennies you're saving here. So I think that I don't know if, you know, the leadership in these global sourcing organizations know that that's where it is. But, you know, in reality, we're offsetting at KPMG because we've made these net zero targets for 2030. And when we're buying our offsets, so I'm like projecting out kind of like, and of course we are a majority of people's business, but still we have, you know, some tonnage in our supply chain that we need to offset. So we work with this supplier that gives us these offsets. And they are already kind of like, if I'm buying next year's offsets, they're already saying, well, next year is 30% more expensive. And I need to think about, well, do I buy it now? Or if I wait until next year, will those be actually 50% more expensive? So, you know, I think that there is going to be this indirect carbon tax as everybody is signing up to these you know, commitments like the UN Fashion Charter. So there's going to be a struggle to meet those targets. The capital market will keep the companies honest. And how are you going to manage that is through that supply chain partnership. And in absolute terms, I personally think there needs to be a significant reduction in supply. now. So in the end, where is that? Okay, so the overall supply is probably going to reduce, but where does that go to? I think that, you know, all the laggards will be eliminated and predominantly move towards companies that is proactively doing this. So I think from that perspective, I think first of all, it needs to be that supplier customer kind of like partnership, supply chain partnership, rather than the old kind of way, kind of like, you know, kind of like shutting you in a room and asking you to reduce your price by X. That doesn't work anymore. And the other thing is, you know, I think that is leveraging on data. So part of apart from the supply chain aspect, the data aspect is and leveraging on IT and technology to manage the supply chain is going to be critical, because I think that to be able to track and trace all the footprint, and then also you know, kind of all that information that is needed in this modern world. And the solutions are out there, but I think that in the end, there needs to be a desire from the industry. And I think Hong Kong has a significant role to play here in digitization and supply chain management, and using digital solutions to do a better matching of supply and demand. And from that perspective, there's going to be significant savings possible from the supply chain, because I think we're making way too much stuff that nobody wants. You can't even give it away, the majority of the stuff that we make. I've been to textile waste factories in the US, and some of you may have heard me talk about, and this was, you know, 2012 or whenever I went to Phoenix to some textile waste factory. When I was there, they were getting a shipment of 700,000 pairs of unsold jeans from some retailer, unsold. And then there were people kind of like cutting the buttons off and all of this kind of stuff. And then in the end, what happens to that those unsold textile jeans? They become building insulation or prison beds and all of that. And I mean, you know, ultimately, all of that is a footprint. And is that needed? Is that really going to benefit you as a retailer and a brand and you know, in terms of revenue? I really don't think so. So how do we cut out that fat within the system? And that can only be done through digitization and technology. And how can kind of like Hong Kong play a role in that, in terms of digitization, sustainability, supply chain management, supply chain partnership? Demand-driven supply chain is the other thing that is, you know, really important to drive through. So, and I think that will benefit not only kind of like the Greater Bay Area, and but it's really the Southeast Asian play that is here as well. So if we kind of like keep going. Yeah. So if we just keep going, I just wanted to share that. If you can go to page, if you can go to page, sorry, page 16. So all of this stuff is just basically all the things that I talked about just now, about the UN Fashion Charter, who signed up, the need for kind of like carbon reduction and the supply chain. But I think that, I mean, this is and I was always trying to work on this when I was in the textile industry. It's a demand-driven supply chain. The technology is really there for this to happen, but unless the industry is willing to change the way that things are done and really look at it from another perspective, you know, it will not scale to the way that it needs to go. And I think that this 45% in 9 years, absolute terms, that may be something that is going to drive this change. You know, really meet, matching that supply and demand. And this can only happen if there is supply chain partnership, so that there is partnership, you know, kind of like across, you know, from tier 1 all the way to tier 4. You know, when I was in the industry, so this was what was happening. So the brand and the retailer is probably you know, projecting kind of like, or planning a year in advance. It gets to the apparel manufacturer. They probably are a season in advance in terms of how far they see. It gets to the fabric mill. Be lucky to get a month in advance, and you get to the yarn, lucky to see a week in advance. So can you imagine the data degradation? If you're looking at that, the data information degradation up the supply chain, and how there is just so much stuff. And I think that we have this in that future of sourcing report that I'm talking through right now, that bullwhip effect of kind of like when you're mismatching demand and supply and demand, that, you know, this infinite amount of stuff that is made that is not needed up the supply chain. And so how can we leverage technology and using that projection and data to be able to, you know, capture all of this stuff? Now, I think, I mean, you know, since I'm at the Cotton USA sponsored event, and I just want to also give a shout out to, I think, what is it called, the EFS system? I can't quite remember if it was called EFS. But anyway, where, you know, at the spinning mill, where we knew exactly which bale of cotton was on that blowing room floor. Now, if I was able to connect that information from the EFS system into my enterprise, you know, SAP system, say, and then I could connect that, you know, to the fabric side, and then to the, you know, and through supply chain partnership, I could work with our fabric partners to figure out exactly which bale of cotton that yard of denim was made from, and then up to the jeans. And then will we be sitting here right now talking about Xinjiang cotton and we don't know where that is? All that kind of stuff. That would have preempted that whole aspect of kind of like not knowing where all of this cotton is gone, because actually Cotton USA had always had this EFS system where I could actually track it to the bale. Now there needs to be a lot of IT work in the background to kind of like connect that information to that specific yarn that I'm selling. But then even more important is that supply chain partnership aspect of how does that then fit up to the fabric, and then to the apparel, and then to the shops. That is kind of like where it needs to get to in terms of track and traceability. That's where it needs to get to in terms of sustainability, because if we're able to do that, we'll be matching supply and demand at least, you know, a lot more. We're currently matching supply and demand at an efficiency of 0%, you know, or 1%, you know, considering how much stuff that I've seen that is just being thrown away and it's not sold, and you put that at 90% off in the street market, nobody wants it still. There's so much stuff. So, you know, I think that fundamentally is where we need to get to, and understanding of sustainability, and that it is mission critical. How do we leverage digitization to be able to kind of like track and trace not just the carbon footprint, but, you know, all the materials and all this kind of stuff. And I tell you, the technology is there. It's doable. And if we move to kind of page 18. I mean, you know, this KPMG Origins tool using blockchain-based provenance track and trace platform. Now, how do we then connect that with the EFS system and move it through the supply chain to be able to, you know, authenticate all this stuff? Ultimately, you know, I think that we're doing it for like the wine industry and some luxury goods, because I think, you know, especially with luxury goods, and if you guys speak Chinese, A4, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? And is that real stuff? And you know, so you know that there is a need for that, but fundamentally, this is not kind of, you know, I think blockchain is just part of a kind of like a tool that you can use. But I think in the end, in order to digitize an organization, in order to digitize a supply chain or an industry, it does need fundamentally kind of like everybody working together with that goal in mind. So, you know, I hope that these triggers that we're seeing, and I think that, you know, COVID just exacerbated the need for change within the textile industry to move into a more sustainable, more digital, and more demand-driven model in the future. So I think with that, if we just go to that final slide. Yeah, I'm not going to go through that. Just go to the final slide. Sorry, slide 22. Yeah, so I think that, and we're seeing this across the board. It's not just textile and apparel, but I think that this whole sustainability and digitization aspect across the board is happening, and that the capital markets is really driving this. You know, kind of moving the money into people who are doing this. So, you know, having been looking at sustainability for 14 years, I really felt like I caught the bug in 2006, started in 2007. So 2007 to 2021, it's 14 years. And I think only in the last 18 months have I seen that you know, it really move up to where it needs to be, which is at that board level agenda across the globe, at these multinational levels, at government levels, you know, and policy levels. And that's where it is right now. So, and all of you who still have a lot of, you know, wanting to do more business in China, or that your production is in China, et cetera, the 14 5-year plan, there were three words, key words in the 14 5-year plan. If you looked at it, it was technology, security, and green. And I just talked about two of those, technology and green. So I think that if you are not aligned with the policy direction of the Chinese government, you know, there's a very limited room for you for survival. So with that, I don't know, you know, I think that there is a lot of opportunities to change, and but I think that it needs to be very intentional, and it, you know, it really does need that reset. So with that, I'll just pass it back to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. So let us now begin the Q&A session. If you got any questions to our guest speakers today, please use the Q&A function to submit your questions. We have received a lot of interesting questions. Due to the limited available time, we have selected several questions for our speakers to answer now. For other questions, we'll pass them to our guest speakers after the webinar. Now, let us have our first audience questions, which is for Mr. William Kimbrell from Cotton Inc. So, With the impact of COVID-19, digital supply chain becomes a hot topic in our industry. How can we get more information from different sources to support our company's 3D design and product development? Any comments, William?
Yeah, thank you. And it's nice to be with everyone again today. Yes, digital is becoming even more and more important. Digital was actually on our Cotton Incorporated's radar pre-COVID. We started to already see a lot of brands and retailers adopting the technologies. As a result, we had a lot of manufacturing partners that were adopting some of these new softwares as well. But of course, COVID just accelerated everything. Of course, there are a lot of efficiency gains that can be seen with the digital softwares that are out there. And I guess as an organization, Cotton Incorporated has taken the initiative to partner with really two software providers, one being Clo and one being Browseware. And what we're doing as an organization is working with those two softwares and creating a digital fabric library. Cotton Incorporated, we have twice a year, we do annual releases of cotton-rich fabrics. We release those for inspiration and also to give people ideas on how to commercialize different knit and woven fabrics. And we've seen the importance of making that completely digital. So that when we meet with accounts, when we meet with brands and retailers or with manufacturers, we can give them a full solution as far as looking at a physical fabric, but also what we call a digital twin that they can then work with and work with their suppliers on. So really trying to streamline the process of digitizing the fabric and then taking it all the way into virtual garment design. So we have a lot of information on this. I mentioned at the tail end of my presentation a resource from Cotton Incorporated called Cotton Works. We have a whole digital page there, and we've begun to digitize our entire fabric library. I think right now we have roughly 200 fabrics, cotton fabrics, that are available on the website. They can be downloaded in both Clo and Browseware software, so they can be worked with by the industry, and of course have more information if anybody's interested in that specifically.
Thank you, William. We also have another question for you, which is about circularity, the recycling of pre and post consumer waste. There is a lot of discussion on waste and how to tackle this issue and put it back into the supply chain. What scalable initiatives are available to brands, and what are the various cotton councils around the world doing to support and promote this? Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, circularity, really a lot of the comments in my presentation were around circularity. We're taking a hard look at this, and I guess what we're doing is really looking at it, taking a very broad approach. Cotton, completely honest, there are some limitations. It is disadvantaged if we're trying to take pre-consumer waste or post-consumer waste, garnet it back into a fiber form that can then be used in apparel. There are some limitations on how much recycled content you can put in there and have it processed efficiently and have achieved the good performance of the textile fabric or garment. So we do have some limitations there from going from apparel, I guess, back into apparel, I would say. But the synthetic solutions are not necessarily great ones either, because there's a lot of harsh chemical processes that go into recycling synthetic fibers like polyester. So really, we're taking a broad approach and looking at what other applications can we take pre-consumer goods or post-consumer goods and convert cotton into. Actually, it's interesting to hear Pat talk about the denim insulation. That was a program developed by Cotton Incorporated. We partnered with U.S. brands and retailers to take denim jeans, worked with a converter inside of the United States to take those jeans, grind them up, and then produce insulation out of that can be sold at retail. So programs like that, and then also looking at how can we take some of this fiber and go into maybe non-wovens applications, maybe automotive. You saw some interesting examples in my presentation about additive manufacturing, like injection molding and 3D printing. So really looking at research that can get cotton into a range of different applications not necessarily just focused on, going from apparel back to apparel. So this is really a hot topic and an important one for us in circularity, and an area that we continue to do a lot of research.
Thank you, William. We have another questions for Karin. Given the recent boycott of BCI in China, is U.S. cotton a BCI member? What are the key differences between BCI and U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol? May I have your answers?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's great to see everybody virtually, but hopefully soon we'll get to be in person. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating, both the speakers and all of the audience. I see that we've actually kept most of our audience the entire session, so thank you for that. And well, actually, the number one, I mean, there's so many takeaways for this, and I'm very happy to hear Pat talk about digitalization and systemization of the supply chain, because this is really where, well, what I call the rubber hits the road. Because if it's genuinely trackable, then there's no argument, right? So you can tell where your stuff is from and how it's being produced. So from our perspective, our new program, the United States Cotton Trust Protocol, we actually designed this program with that in mind, so that every step of the way of the supply chain, it's trackable. So, and our program is designed exclusively for US grown cotton. And I would say this is one of the main differences. BCI is global. They work with small farms, in various productions around the world. Well, the U.S. cotton, it's a whole country. It's the United States production. And so we're right now in the process of having our farmers sign up for the protocol, because it really starts at the farm, so, and it's very, very strict. So these farmers kind of make a pledge, they make a commitment, and they go through a very rigorous process of saying, okay, and you can look it up on our website. It's a little bit too detailed to go along the process of explaining it here, but the whole thing is explained on our website. But basically it says the farmer makes a promise for continuous improvement, and he has to track it and measure it every step of the way, every season. And it's all third-party verifiable. And that's just from the farm. But when the cotton actually gets to the mill to be spun, from there, then you can track it, and through what we call aggregators. So we can tell where that cotton goes, it's spun, and then the spinning to the fabric to the garment to the brand. So at the end of the day, this program is really driven by the brands who are serious about their trackability and their supply chains. So then they can see the numbers, the third-party scientific and measurable numbers at the end of their year, so they can even go back and report to their shareholders. And it's also in alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals as well. So number one, our program is completely compliant with other programs out there. So I would just say, if you're doing really anything for continuous improvement, fantastic. But again, I actually completely agree with Pat that if you don't have your act together and get it systemized and digitalized, then you're really not, in the game. You're not gonna go where the industry is going. And so, well, we're really happy that our protocol is just that. So it makes it easier for everybody, and especially the brands and retailers, to trace back their chain all the way really to the farm.
Thank you, Karin. The next question is for Michael. As a denim fabric mill, when you are pursuing your sustainable goals in manufacturing process, how do you justify the ROI in your business to stay both sustainable and profitable? Please, Michael.
Thanks for the question, and I would say that's a really good question, right? So I would say if we always look in these numbers, there's nothing you are going to put any investment into the the sustainable area, and you're not going to spend any single dollar, because the sad thing is I'm still has to deal with the customers every day with like a penny. Okay, if you talk about how why the numbers that we put it for the investment into sustainability, and then how much we can get it from return for that, it's really hard to calculate. But one thing is we have to believe if we want to stay in the game. So if you still want to do the denim or textiles business, and then we still have to think about how we should invest in the sustainable equipment or facilities. So and also as Pat said, right, we cannot do that by tomorrow. We cannot say, oh, because there's some kind of a new regulations from the government, and then okay, let's do it tomorrow. No, it's not like that. If you can see my presentation, right, we are talking about like 10 years plan. So we are not planning like next month. So everything we have to plan ahead. So so I have to say, if you still want to be in the game, and then this is something that you have to do. It's really hard to work on the numbers, say ROI or whatever, that kind of numbers, how much profit I can get from this machine. Even though for the big box dyeing I present, I mentioned, right, oh, that's some chemical saving, there's some energy saving, and then the customers, and when I presented to one of the customers, right, and then he just still come back to us, oh, oh, you save so much, why don't you just reduce 10 cents to us? I said, they don't even think about you have to put some investment in it. Okay, they just see, oh, you reduce some of the chemicals, so you should reduce your fabric price. So, and then I would say again, demand and supply right now is still not balanced, and so it's, I understand it's really hard to let you guys to believe you should still putting investment in this sustainabilities, and that's the future. But as our company, we see that's the future, and then we will keep investing in this area, and we hope we can encourage more and more people will do the same.
Yeah, if I could kind of like add a little bit to what Michael has said, and I think that, I mean, that is the age-old question that we face when we're doing sustainability, right? But I think that if it just as an example, right? So I remember when I was in the textile industry, and I wanted to kind of like get the recycled water, recycle the wastewater back into the mill and all of that kind of stuff. And there was no way you would make those numbers work just from purely, at that point in time. But I think that the question then became, as the Chinese government, if you're operating, or even in Vietnam, right, as they increase that, stringent, the wastewater quality one, and they are going to give you an effluent license that is going to reduce by half, and etc., etc. How are you? So if you hadn't done that before, or if you're not doing that, then you would have to kind of like reduce your effluent by half, and in order to do that, you may have to reduce your production by half. And so how much is that going to cost you? Or how much is it going to cost you to relocate? And how much is it going to cost you if you need to change bankers? And I think that it's like all of these considerations, and I can only tell you that now that narrative has just gone exponential. It's not a nice to have anymore. It is really front and center of the business discussions, day in, day out, where I'm sitting here at KPMG.
Thank you very much. Another question, also from Mr. Pat-Nie Woo. What kind of impact that the recent Xinjiang cotton issue will bring to the EU and ES brands sourcing strategies in China and the CA region? Please.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about this, but I think, it's look, that's politics, right? It's politics, it's part of this whole global narrative. But I think that, ultimately, China is still a huge market, and people are repositioning themselves into that China market. And fundamentally, I don't really have an answer for that, except that, it's politics, and it is going to affect things, and it's part and parcel of this whole decoupling aspect in some ways or form, and that's the world we live in. Everything has been politicized.
Thank you very much for answering the questions. And it's time, and here comes to the end of the webinar. We would like to thank Felix Mr. William Kimbrell, Ms. Karin Malmstrom, Mr. Michael Lam, and Mr. Pat-Nie Woo for being our guest speakers today. Today we have over 100 participants attending this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you've got any question about today's webinar, please contact us. We will then forward your questions to our guest speakers. Thank you again for your participation today. Goodbye and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You.
Bye.
See you soon, I hope.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.